Welcome to the Daily WIP, the show where we discover everyone is becoming a media company. On the show today, we're going to talk about the evolution of marketing with Robin. In a former life, you were deep in marketing.
I was, funnily enough, which I find hard to believe now.
I know, hard to believe. Time has passed. So in the early days, what are we talking about, early 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000s. That's when I was in marketing.
What was your job?
I was a marketing manager for online, it was called back then.
Just called online?
Online.
And that was just one part of what they
did?
did?
One part. So my job was about directing marketing or directing customers to purchase online. So it wasn't necessarily the marketing was solely focused online, but it was trying to get people to use e-commerce back then.
E-commerce.
It was like the first kind of e-commerce store.
Oh my
so
gosh.
This was at O2 in London that I'm talking about, telecoms, and they had lots of high street stores, but my job was to try and get people to buy their phones and their mobile plans online. So we used a combination of so digital marketing, digital advertising, just on websites, and we did a lot of press advertising, would you believe? So we'd take out like strips at the bottom of all those papers in Britain, they've got like so many different newspapers. We'd take out strips and just put like, get a phone for £49 plus your plan, buy it online, it'll be cheaper than in the store, the high street.
That was it.
That was it, literally it.
Get them to go online by getting them in newspapers.
Yeah, they'd read it on the paper, on the tube, honestly, it was such powerful. It was just, they really just got to where customers were, got a really good ad. It was the same format every single time, just change the deals out, change the phone, change the plan, whatever. We used to put a lot of advertising on Yahoo and Hotmail, and there was no social marketing. It was literally on people's websites. We did homepage takeovers of like MSN. So we did this homepage takeover on the MSN website, which was big back then, and this whole big O2 thing, go buy your mobile phone. It was crazy. God.
That's weird. It's so weird to think you didn't have social marketing either.
No. Nothing.
Facebook wasn't there.
No.
No Twitter, no Snapchat,
no
Instagram, nothing.
We're just literally on news websites. I was solely focused on getting customers to buy online, and we would have used 3 or 4 different agencies who did it all. I never did anything like that. I basically said at the beginning of every year, or even we'd get down to a quarter, but we started off with the year and we'd say we've got a £3 million budget for the quarter. Go away and tell me how you're going to spend it on what media. So they'd come back and say, okay, we'll spend this much in the press and we'll spend this much online. And they did all the planning, all the buying. They'd just give me a schedule and say, this is what we need. Then they'd say, okay, this is the kind of creative thing, as in they did a template. And then all it was for us to come up with the different plans, like the content, give it to them, they'd put it in there and off we go. And that was it. It was done. So my job was, as a marketing manager, I felt, was coordinating agencies.
In terms of the outcomes, how did they report on whether what they were doing actually worked?
Well, they didn't do a lot of that. So we would try and just assess. And so there was 2 things we did very well with press, was we put a wee code in the ad, so the customer had to type it in. So then you'd be able to get the results from that. We got the call centres, if they rang up, actually as well, they could ring up and get the deal too. So, commerce over the phone. And they'd have to give the little code. And same with online, we just tracked whether they clicked through on a site, clicked a banner or something, and it went to a shop.
So it had click-through rates.
Yeah.
We fast forward 15 years.
Yeah, I know.
And now, 15 years. And now we look at a marketing manager in the modern age.
Yeah.
And they're using video a lot, they're using social, they're doing all those other things. But are the fundamentals actually the same? They're still working with agencies. They're bringing some things in-house. They have their own internal agencies now, some of them, but not all of them. But is it still the same, or is their job much more different now?
I think it's quite different. So there's still some things, like you still have agencies, but to a lesser degree, I think. And I think you give them a lesser proportion of your budget. So you might have an entire marketing budget. The agencies would get this much, whereas in the past they got more of it. So now they get less because you do have some things in-house, like your social marketing people. They do everything in-house themselves. Like they can make a 20-second video themselves and put it on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They can do that themselves. So I think they just do more themselves, and they are much more concerned about the ROI. It's still a hard thing for them to prove, but they are much more concerned about it.
So what was the main focus in your day, and what do you think is the main focus now?
So the main focus in my day was coordinating agencies and making sure that they did all what they were meant to do. And I was basically signing everything off. So I would have had, if we had Whipster back then, they would have just sent it to me and I would just tick and said, yes, that was the right phone, the right plan, good, get it out the door. Nowadays, they're like having to think about it themselves, like what do we want to talk about, what are we trying to promote, and how are we going to do it. And they will do a lot of the strategizing with their agency and more of it in-house because they've taken it more in-house as well. So the easier stuff they do themselves.
Yeah. But do they also have to compete more? Because like you're saying that O2 takes that ad space on the newspaper. Like, do you have to compete for that now? Like, do people actually look at that paper anymore? Maybe.
Maybe.
But maybe it's now that the eyeballs are not on the paper, but the eyeballs are now on Facebook.
And anyone
on
can get to
Instagram,
Facebook.
and everyone's there.
Yeah, that's right.
So now a marketing manager has a way harder job to get cut through in that area. And so then they have to do what we've been talking about, which is iterate a lot more and get outcomes and then incrementally change to get better outcomes.
That's right, and you're right, there's so much stuff now and there's so much noise that all of a sudden you have to try just that little bit harder. It's crazy trying to compete with not only other businesses, but also just the general public who are also publishing all sorts of stuff, like how many people put up photos of food, and you've got to compete with that as a restaurant or whatever. Like you're just competing so much more, and people are just so much more, I don't know, just aware of everything that it's just harder to do. Like back then we could just put one straight ad out and leave it and it had cut through, but now you just couldn't do that because you're constantly trying to have to make it better and improve on it because someone else is either going to do the same thing or do it better. Yeah, things are harder now. Yeah. And we have less money.
Yeah, that's the other thing that you were saying is that sometimes your budgets were just crazy.
Crazy huge. Like I can remember £3 million for a quarter on media. Which was paper and online. This was early 2000s again, so back before that whole GFC thing happened. So we had big money. We spent lots of it with agencies. We went out for lots of lunches, lots of drinks, lots of fun things. We did conferences in Greece. It was awesome. Yeah. But I think now people, like there's just not that money floating around that there used to be, like the late 90s, the early 2000s. So people are much more conscious, and the first thing to go is kind of budgets where you can't prove the ROI, so that's what gets cut. Right. And marketing is one of those things, which is why they're constantly trying to always make sure that they're getting the biggest bang for their buck, but it's the hardest problem to solve in marketing.
So the killer thing at the moment is to show ROI of marketing and specifically content, because we know that has the highest cut through. And so then that seems to be the thing. So in your day, it was all about just managing agencies, and now the biggest thing now is just managing the actual ROI engine. Yeah.
I think the other thing actually that's changed a lot, and this is why I got out of marketing, is it wasn't enough of a focus on data, which is what we're talking about, like looking at the data, realizing if it's working or not, and then iterating on it, and it wasn't like that. So I got out of it because I thought it was really fluffy and kind of like, oh, yeah, we'll just do this, or we'll do that, and we'll see what happens, and it didn't feel like it really mattered. But I think there's much more of an emphasis now on that data-driven side of things, which is good and which we should all capitalise on. But it just wasn't there in the past either, because there just wasn't the data. Whereas now you see everything. You can, if you choose to, you can see it all.
So it's almost like back in the day, you'd do a handful of expensive things, which didn't matter if they worked or not, because they just worked well enough. And the competition was not so high. But now you have to do a huge amount of small things and learn based on iteration. And get better and better and better, incrementally better, and build your ROI machine. Well, it does sound like it's hard to be a marketing manager these days.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be quite tough. And you're always, having to justify everything. God. And compete.
Good luck, marketing managers. See you tomorrow.
See ya.